Imagine for a moment two great rivers, one flowing down from the forest of northern Europe, the other from the sun-baked lands of the Mediterranean. These rivers represent two different traditions that would eventually merge to shape the political culture of the West. The northern river carries with it the idea of freedom, a concept rooted in kinship, neighborliness, and the bonds of community. The southern river carries liberty, a concept defined by law, rights, and the civic duties from the Roman world. Though today, most people treat freedom and liberty as interchangeable words. The origins of these words tell a different story. Freedom is of Germanic origin. It is tied to the same root as the word friend. It was not so much a legal category, but we can understand it as a lived reality, the recognition that you belonged among your people and that you could live without any coercion within that community. Freedom, in this sense, was a currency of neighborliness and mutual trust, not set in legal statutes. Liberty, by contrast, came from Rome. To have libertas was to be recognized as a citizen and be vested with the rights shared by both patricians and plebeians. But liberty was never absolute. It was defined by the state. It involved both rights and obligations, a set place within the civic order. Liberty was bound to the laws and duties of citizenship. So these two traditions, freedom as communal belonging and liberty as civic rights, took root in separate ends of the European continent. But over time, their streams began to converge. And one of the earliest places we see this meeting is in the Magna Carta of 1215. When the English barons asked King John to seal that charter, they were not inventing liberty from scratch. They were drawing on the Germanic sense of freedom, the rights of free men within the community, and using the Roman style of binding it into law. The Magna Carta declared that no free man shall be besieged or imprisoned except by the lawful judgment of his equals by the law of the land. If you follow my thinking here, in this document, freedom becomes liberty. Communal rights and neighborly recognition were translated into a legal guarantee, that is to say, an enforceable protection against arbitrary power. Yet this very spirit of freedom also brought division. In the 19th century, the South defended slavery and secession by appealing to freedom, the freedom of local communities and states to govern themselves without federal interference. But this freedom, stripped of its neighborly roots, was twisted into a defense for the bondage of other humans. The North, by contrast, ultimately stood on the side of liberty, the structured order of rights and duties guaranteed by the Union. Abraham Lincoln captured this when he described America as a nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. It was the Roman tradition of liberty, locked by law and national authority, that preserved the Union and redefined the nation. From that point on, American history has been shaped by the ongoing tension between these two rivers. The frontier spirit of freedom carried westward expansion and individual enterprise. The civic traditions of liberty guided the building of institutions, the extension of rights, and the preservation of order. At times, they have pulled against one another, but together, they have strengthened the American experiment with vitality and resilience. The West, and America in particular, became what they are because both rivers flow here. Our political culture is always negotiating between them, the warm ties of freedom and the structured rights of liberty. The strength of our tradition does not come from choosing one over the other, but by holding them together in a creative tension. And I pray that we will always continue to do so. I appreciate your taking the time to watch this video, and I look forward to reading any feedback that you may have on it. Thank you.